Solve this, idiot!
But...
Are you deaf? I told you to solve it! Or are you so stupid you don't even understand English?
But you haven't taught us this part yet, Doctor.
Dr. Gerald Whitmore slammed the chalk against the board so hard it snapped. He pointed to the chemical equation, the one he had boasted for 15 years that was unsolvable.
Go on, dumbass!
He waved his hand as if calling a dog.
Show the class what a brain only used for wiping blackboards looks like.
Isaac Bennett stood, walked to the board, picked up the broken chalk. You forced me to! 9 seconds. That's all it took. The chalk clicked against the tray. The lecture hall went dead silent, and the color drained from Whitmore's face. But what happened next? That's the part nobody was ready for. 3 weeks earlier, Isaac Bennett stepped off a Greyhound bus in downtown Boston with a duffel bag and $42 in his pocket. The air smelled different here, cleaner, colder, like money and old brick. Belworth University sat on a hill above the Charles River. Gothic stone buildings, iron gates, manicured lawns that looked like they'd never seen a weed. The chemistry department alone had more square footage than Isaac's entire high school back in East Baltimore. Glass-walled laboratories lined the second floor, filled with equipment Isaac had only seen in textbooks. A periodic table mural covered the lobby wall, hand-painted in gold leaf. This place breathed prestige. He'd won his way here. A national science essay contest. 15,000 applicants, 1 full scholarship. Isaac had written about molecular bonding in contaminated water systems. He'd taught himself most of it from library books and free online lectures, because East Baltimore High didn't offer AP chemistry. Didn't offer AP anything, actually. The school's lab had 3 working Bunsen burners and a ventilation hood held together with duct tape. His mother, Lorraine Bennett, had driven him to the bus station at 4 in the morning. She worked as a janitor at Johns Hopkins Hospital, 12-hour shifts scrubbing floors in a building full of doctors. Her hands were always cracked, always smelled like bleach. She'd saved 11 months to buy Isaac a graphing calculator for the trip. You call me every Sunday, she said. She pressed a folded 20 into his palm. And you don't let nobody tell you what you can't do. Isaac's roommate was a kid named Tyler Hayes from Connecticut. Sandy hair, easy smile, parents who owned a boat. Tyler wasn't cruel, he was just clueless. So like, Baltimore? Tyler asked on move-in day, eyebrows raised. That's intense, man. Isaac unpacked his one bag while Tyler's parents carried in a mini fridge, a gaming monitor, and a $70 desk lamp. Tyler's mother arranged framed family photos on the shelf. Isaac had one photo, his mother in her hospital uniform, smiling in front of their row house. He tucked it inside his notebook. The first day of organic chemistry changed everything. Dr. Gerald Whitmore walked in at exactly 8 o'clock. Tall, silver hair swept back, pressed shirt, no tie. He moved like a man who'd never been told no. 28 years tenured, 41 published papers, a textbook with his face on the cover used in over 300 universities. His office walls were covered with awards, conference photos, handshakes with Nobel laureates. Students called him the gatekeeper, not as a compliment. Whitmore had a reputation. Every semester, he washed out at least a third of his class. He called it raising standards. But the students who disappeared were almost always the ones on financial aid, the ones who didn't look like the oil paintings hanging in the faculty hallway. 2 years ago, a first-generation student from Detroit dropped out after Whitmore gave her a 0 on a midterm for insufficient academic tone. She never came back. Nobody filed complaints. Nobody wanted to be next. Whitmore scanned the lecture hall that first morning. 200 faces stared back. His eyes moved row by row until they stopped on Isaac. 3rd row, left side, the only black student in the room. Name? Isaac Bennett, sir. Whitmore glanced at his roster. Bennett, the scholarship. He said the word like it tasted sour. I hope you understand that charity has limits in my classroom. Here, you earn your seat or you lose it. A few students shifted uncomfortably. Most didn't react at all. Someone in the back row typed something on their phone, probably a group chat. Isaac could feel the weight of 200 pairs of eyes. Isaac said nothing. He opened his notebook and wrote the date. That first week, Whitmore assigned what he called a baseline diagnostic. 50 problems, graduate-level difficulty, no textbook allowed. Most students scraped by with 50s and 60s, A handful broke 70. Isaac scored 96 out of 100, the highest in the class. Whitmore never mentioned it. Instead, the following Monday, he announced Claire Ashford's score, 91, to the entire lecture hall. "This," he said, holding up her paper, "is the standard. Miss Ashford understands that excellence isn't given. It's built." Claire sat 2 rows ahead of Isaac. She turned around and caught his eye. Her expression said what her mouth didn't. "I know what he just did." Isaac kept his head down, kept writing. But Dean Patricia Collins had noticed something too. She'd been reviewing Whitmore's grade distributions for 3 semesters now. The pattern was hard to ignore. Minority students failed his courses at 4 times the departmental average. No formal investigation yet, just a file on her desk, growing thicker every semester. Collins had scheduled a classroom observation for later that month. She had no idea she'd need it much sooner than that. Week 3, Monday morning. The lecture hall was full. Whitmore walked in carrying nothing but a single stick of chalk, no slides, no textbook. He moved to the board and began writing. The equations stretched across the entire width, 6 lines of organic synthesis, reaction mechanisms chained together like a puzzle designed to break people. When he finished, he stepped back and admired it. This," he said, tapping the board, "is what I call the Whitmore Wall. 15 years. No undergraduate in this university has ever solved it." He paused, let the weight settle. "Graduate students have tried. Most couldn't finish it in a semester." The room was silent. Students copied the equation into their notebooks like they were transcribing scripture. Whitmore's eyes drifted to the 3rd row. They always drifted to the 3rd row. "Bennett," Isaac looked up. "Stand up." Isaac stood. "Come to the board." Whitmore's voice was calm, almost pleasant, the way a cat sounds before it swipes. "Since you seem to think my class is beneath you, scoring so high on that little diagnostic, let's see what you're really made of." Isaac walked to the front. 200 phones came out. Someone in the back row hit record. Whitmore leaned against his desk and crossed his arms. "Solve it, right now, in front of everyone." He tilted his head. "Unless Baltimore didn't teach you this part either." A few laughs, nervous ones. Isaac stared at the board. The equation was dense, multi-step. A Fisher esterification buried under 3 layers of misdirection. Deliberate dead ends Whitmore had woven in to make it look impossible. 4 seconds of silence. Isaac picked up the chalk. His hand moved fast. He skipped the first 2 decoy pathways entirely, went straight for the catalytic shortcut hidden in the 3rd mechanism, rewrote the yield calculation, circled the answer. 9 seconds. Done. He set the chalk on the tray and turned around. The lecture hall didn't breathe. Claire Ashford's pen slipped from her fingers. Tyler Hayes stood up from his seat without realizing it. 3 students in the front row looked at each other with their mouths open. Whitmore stared at the board. His jaw tightened. The answer was correct. Not just correct, elegant. Isaac had found a pathway that simplified the entire problem into 4 clean steps. "You cheated." Whitmore's voice came out flat. "Someone leaked this to you." "No, sir." "Then explain how a 2nd-year undergraduate solved something my doctoral candidates couldn't." Isaac pointed at the board. "The Fisher esterification pathway. You buried it under 2 false mechanisms, but the acid catalyst gives it away in the 3rd line. It's in your textbook." He paused. "Page 341. Whitmore's face went from white to red. The room buzzed. "Sit down, Bennett." "Sir, I said sit down." Whitmore's voice cracked like a whip. "We'll deal with this." Isaac walked back to his seat. Tyler grabbed his arm. "Dude, that was insane." Claire turned around again. This time she didn't just look at Isaac. She nodded, a small, deliberate nod, the kind that means, "I see you, and I'm paying attention." Whitmore gathered his papers and left the lecture hall 4 minutes early. He didn't look at anyone on his way out. His hands were shaking. By that evening, the video had 6,000 views on campus social media. By midnight, it had 40,000. And by the next morning, Isaac Bennett had a letter in his student mailbox, a formal summons to the Academic Integrity Board, the charge, academic dishonesty, filed by Dr. Gerald Whitmore. The Academic Integrity Board met on the 4th floor of Bellworth's administration building. Oak-paneled walls, a long conference table, 5 chairs on one side for the board members, 1 chair on the other side for the accused. Isaac sat alone. No lawyer, no advisor, no parent who could afford to fly up from Baltimore on a Tuesday. Just a 20-year-old kid in a clean shirt he had ironed on his dorm room desk. Across the table sat Dr. Samuel Reed, co-chair of the chemistry department. Next to him, 2 associate professors and 2 student representatives. Dean Patricia Collins observed from a chair near the window. She wasn't on the board. She was there to watch. Whitmore sat at the far end. He'd brought a folder, thick, tabbed, color-coded. He looked like a man who'd already won. "Dr. Whitmore," Reed began, "please present your case." Whitmore stood. He smoothed his tie. "Thank you, Dr. Reed. This is straightforward." He opened the folder. "The equation I presented in class, what my students call the Whitmore wall, is a multi-step organic synthesis problem I designed personally over a period of 3 years. It incorporates advanced catalytic mechanisms that are not taught at the undergraduate level, not in my course, not in any course at this university." He paused for effect. "Mr. Bennett solved it in 9 seconds. That is not possible without prior access to the solution." Reed nodded. "Mr. Bennett, your response?" Isaac reached into his backpack. He pulled out a book. Whitmore's own textbook, dog-eared, spine-cracked, pages bristling with sticky notes. "The solution method is in this book," Isaac said. He opened to a marked page. Chapter 14. Fischer esterification with acid catalysis. The mechanism Dr. Whitmore used in the wall problem is a layered version of the same pathway described on page 341. Whitmore scoffed. "That's an introductory overview. It doesn't remotely—" "May I finish, sir?" Reed raised a hand toward Whitmore. "Let him speak." Isaac laid the book flat on the table and pointed to a diagram. The wall equation uses 3 apparent mechanisms. 2 of them are dead ends, designed to waste time. The third contains an embedded Fischer esterification. If you isolate the carboxylic acid and the alcohol in the third line, the catalytic shortcut becomes visible. He traced the pathway with his finger. "It takes about 4 seconds to see it if you know what you're looking for." The room was quiet. Dr. Reed leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. One of the student representatives was scribbling notes furiously. "But that's not all," Isaac continued. He pulled a second document from his backpack, a printed copy of one of Whitmore's published papers. "This is Dr. Whitmore's 2016 paper in the Journal of Organic Chemistry, Catalytic Efficiency in Esterification Reactions." On page 9, he describes the exact same shortcut, the same one I used on the board. Whitmore's expression flickered, just for a moment. Isaac opened the paper to the marked page. "Here, Table 3, reaction yield for the catalyzed pathway." He pointed. "Dr. Whitmore reports a theoretical yield of 94.7%. "Correct," Whitmore said, "because that is the yield." Isaac shook his head. "No, sir, it's not." He pulled out a single sheet of handwritten calculations, clean, precise, every step labeled. "If you run the stoichiometry correctly, accounting for the equilibrium constant and the water byproduct, the actual theoretical yield is 91.2%, not 94.7. The room shifted. Dr. Reed took the paper and studied it. His eyebrows rose slowly. "That's a 3.5% discrepancy," Isaac said, "in a published, peer-reviewed paper." Whitmore's face went deep red. "That's a rounding variance, a minor. 3 decimal places aren't a rounding variance, Professor." Isaac's voice was steady, not angry, not smug, just factual. "And it's not a typo either, because the same incorrect figure appears in your 2018 follow-up paper and in the 3rd edition of your textbook, Table 14.6. Silence. One of the associate professors on the board pulled up the paper on her laptop. She scrolled, found the table, ran the numbers on her phone calculator. She looked at Reed. She nodded. Reed removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Dr. Whitmore, were you aware of this discrepancy?" This is not what we're here to discuss." Whitmore's voice had lost its polish. "The question is whether this student had unauthorized access." The question," Reed interrupted, "is whether the accusation has merit. Based on what I've seen, Mr. Bennett solved your problem using a method published in your own textbook and your own journal articles. The fact that he also identified an error in those publications doesn't support your claim. It undermines it. Whitmore opened his mouth, closed it. Dean Collins wrote something in her notebook. "This board finds no evidence of academic dishonesty," Reed announced. "The charge is dismissed." Isaac gathered his papers. His hands were steady. He nodded once to the board, picked up his backpack, and walked out. In the hallway, Claire Ashford was waiting. She'd been sitting on a bench outside the door for 2 hours. "Well?" "Dismissed," Claire exhaled. "I heard you found an error in his paper." 3.5%. She stared at him. "Isaac, do you understand what you just did? You corrected a tenured professor's published research in front of the Integrity Board. His own colleagues just watched him get fact-checked by a sophomore." Isaac zipped up his backpack. "I just answered the question they asked." Claire shook her head slowly. A half-smile crossed her face. "Dr. Reed stopped me in the hallway yesterday. He wants you to present at the department seminar next month." Isaac paused. "Present what?" "Your stoichiometry correction. He thinks the whole department should hear it." Isaac slung his bag over one shoulder. For the first time in 3 weeks, something close to a smile crossed his face. But 4 floors up, behind a closed office door, Gerald Whitmore sat at his desk staring at the wall. The dismissal didn't sting. What stung was the look on Reed's face, the nod from the associate professor, the way Collins had written in that notebook. He picked up his phone and dialed the department secretary. "Cancel my Thursday lecture," he said, "and pull Bennett's full academic file, everything. I want transcripts, financial aid records, disciplinary history, all of it." He hung up and leaned back in his chair. This wasn't over, not even close. Whitmore didn't wait long. The Monday after the hearing, Isaac arrived at his campus work-study job, stocking shelves in the university bookstore, and found his name crossed off the schedule. No explanation, no warning, just a line through Bennett in red ink. The supervisor shrugged. "Got an email from the financial aid office. Said your assignment was being reassigned. That's all I know." Isaac called financial aid. They said the change came from the chemistry department. He called the chemistry department. They said it was a scheduling conflict. Nobody could tell him who authorized it. But Isaac knew. That same week, Whitmore rescheduled Isaac's makeup exam to overlap with his only remaining work-study shift at the library. Isaac chose the exam, lost the shift, lost the income. $42 a week, gone. Tyler found him that night sitting on the dorm room floor, surrounded by textbooks, eating ramen he'd bought with quarters from his laundry jar. "Dude, this is messed up." Tyler sat down next to him. "He's targeting you." "I know. So what are you going to do?" Isaac slurped the last of the noodles. "Outperform him." 2 weeks later, the announcement went up on every bulletin board in the science building. The National Collegiate Chemistry Challenge, NC3. The most prestigious undergraduate chemistry competition in the country. 64 universities, 3 rounds, live audience, national broadcast on the final day. Bellworth had won it twice in the past decade, both times under Whitmore's coaching. As team coach, Whitmore had sole authority to pick the 5-member roster. He posted it outside his office on a Thursday afternoon. Claire Ashford, Garrett Cole, a junior transfer from Preston Academy whose father ran a pharmaceutical empire. 3 other students Whitmore had personally mentored. Isaac's name was not on the list. Tyler photographed the roster and showed it to Isaac in the dining hall. Isaac stared at it for a long time. Then he pulled out his phone and looked up the NC3 rulebook. Article 7, Section 3. Any student who finishes in the top 5 of their department's internal qualifying assessment shall automatically earn a position on the competition roster, regardless of coaching selection. Isaac had finished first. The next morning, he was in Dean Collins's office at 8:15. Collins read the rule. "Read Isaac's qualifying scores." Picked up her phone. 20 minutes later, Whitmore was ordered to add Isaac to the roster. Whitmore's response was a single email to the team group chat. "Roster updated. Bennett added, per administration." No welcome, no acknowledgement. The period after administration hit like a door slamming shut. The NC3 regional round was held at Columbia University in New York. 12 teams, bright lights, judges from MIT, Stanford, and the American Chemical Society. A live audience of 400. Isaac met Garrett Cole for the first time at the pre-competition mixer. Garrett wore a blazer with his family crest embroidered on the pocket. He shook hands with everyone in the room like he was running for office. When he reached Isaac, he looked him up and down. "So you're the one from the video." Garrett sipped his sparkling water. "They're really letting anyone in now, huh?" Isaac didn't respond. He picked up a glass of water and walked to the other side of the room. Round 1, reaction identification. 20 compounds, 60 seconds each. Isaac identified 18 correctly. Highest score in the entire regional field. Round 2, speed balancing. Complex equations on a timer. Isaac finished with 90 seconds to spare. Second highest. Claire came third. Whitmore huddled with the rest of the team during the break. Strategy, signals, coordination for the team round. Isaac stood 6 feet away. Whitmore never looked at him, never included him. The other teammates glanced at Isaac but said nothing. Nobody wanted to cross the coach. Then came the bonus round. Optional. One problem. No time limit. Any finalist could attempt it, but a wrong answer cost 10 points. The problem appeared on screen. Identify the unstable intermediate compound in a proposed synthesis chain and explain why it would cause a cascade failure. Nobody moved. The other finalists whispered to each other. Garrett shook his head. Too risky. Isaac walked to the answer podium. He studied the chain for 12 seconds. Then he wrote, "The diazonium intermediate at step 4 is thermally unstable above 5 degrees Celsius. At room temperature, it decomposes via nitrogen gas release, triggering an exothermic cascade that destabilizes every subsequent product." The head judge read it, conferred with 2 colleagues, looked up at Isaac. "Correct. Full marks." The auditorium buzzed. Garrett set his pen down and stared at the table. Bellworth qualified for the NC3 finals in Washington, D.C. And everyone in that room knew exactly who had carried them there. But Whitmore was already on his phone, typing, planning. The finals were 2 weeks away, and he had no intention of letting Isaac Bennett shine on a national stage. The team flew to Washington, D.C. on a Tuesday morning. Whitmore had booked first-class seats for himself and the 4 students he'd originally selected. Isaac's ticket was economy, middle seat, last row, next to the bathroom. He spent the 3-hour flight reviewing reaction mechanisms in a notebook balanced on his knee. Tyler had driven down from Connecticut to see him off. "You're going to crush it," he said at the gate. "Don't let that man get in your head." Isaac smiled. "He's not in my head. He's in my way. There's a difference." When the team landed at Reagan National, a university van was waiting. 5 hotel key cards had been prepared. Isaac's name wasn't on any of them. Whitmore told the front desk there must have been an error. The hotel was fully booked. The receptionist offered an apologetic smile, but nothing else. Isaac spent the first night in the lobby. He found an armchair near the business center, spread his notes across the coffee table, and studied until 3 in the morning. A night security guard named Arthur brought him a cup of coffee without being asked. "Looks like you need this more than I do," he said. Claire fixed the room situation the next day. She called Dean Collins directly. Within an hour, Isaac had a room on the 9th floor, a different floor from the rest of the team at the far end of the hallway. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that faced a parking garage. That was enough. The finals were structured in 3 rounds over 2 days. Round 1, individual speed solve. Round 2, specialty category. Each finalist assigned a specific chemistry discipline. Round 3, the grand challenge, 1 massive interdisciplinary problem. All finalists on stage simultaneously. Isaac checked his registered category for round 2. He'd signed up for organic chemistry months ago, his strongest field, the one he'd been preparing for since September. The system now showed theoretical physical chemistry. Whitmore had changed it. Isaac stared at the screen in the hotel business center. Theoretical physical chemistry, thermodynamics, quantum mechanics, statistical mechanics, fields built on advanced calculus and abstract modeling. Isaac had taken 1 introductory course. 1. That was it. He had 36 hours to learn what most students take 2 semesters to absorb. Claire found him in the hotel lobby at midnight, surrounded by borrowed textbooks stacked 3 high. She dropped a pile of her own graduate-level notes on the table, Post-its everywhere, highlighter bleeding through the pages. Thermodynamics and quantum chem, she said. Everything I've got. Isaac looked up, dark circles already forming under his eyes. Why are you helping me? Whitmore's your advisor. If he finds out, then he finds out. Claire sat down across from him. I watched him erase your test score on day 1. I watched him file a fake cheating charge. I watched him cut you from the roster. She opened one of the notebooks. I'm done watching. They studied until 4 in the morning. Claire walked him through eigenvalue problems and partition functions. She explained Boltzmann distributions using a deck of playing cards from the hotel gift shop. Isaac absorbed it like water into dry soil. By 2 a.m., he was solving practice problems faster than Claire could grade them. By 3:30, he was correcting her rounding. How are you doing this? She asked. You've never taken advanced P-Chem. Isaac shrugged. Chemistry is chemistry. The math changes, the logic doesn't. The next morning, one day before the finals, the team held a practice session in the hotel conference room. Whitmore ran drills. He paired students. He reviewed strategy for each round. He handed out problem sets custom-tailored to each member's category. He gave Isaac nothing. Isaac sat at the end of the table, silent. He worked through Claire's notes on his own while the rest of the team practiced together. At one point, Garrett glanced down the table and smirked. Studying for the wrong test, Bennett? Isaac didn't look up. We'll see. Then, Whitmore projected a practice problem on the screen. A thermodynamic equilibrium calculation involving Gibbs free energy at non-standard conditions. The team struggled. Garrett got it wrong twice. 2 others gave partial answers that collapsed on the second variable. Isaac looked up from his notes. The answer is 4.3 kilojoules per mole. The Gibbs free energy change is negative, so the reaction is spontaneous at standard conditions. At the elevated temperature in the problem, you need to apply the Van't Hoff correction, which still gives a negative value, spontaneous both ways. The room went quiet. Garrett's smirk vanished. Whitmore didn't acknowledge the answer. He moved to the next slide without a word, but Claire caught the look on Garrett's face. It wasn't arrogance anymore. It was something closer to fear. That afternoon, Isaac went for a walk along the National Mall. He needed air. His head was full of equations and reaction pathways, and the sound of Whitmore's voice saying, "Charity case," on repeat like a broken record. He sat on a bench near the reflecting pool and called his mother. Hey, baby. Lorraine's voice was tired. She'd just finished a double shift. How's Washington? It's big, Mama. You eating? Yes, ma'am. She was quiet for a moment. You sound heavy, Isaac. What's wrong? He told her. Not everything. Not the hotel, not the category switch, not the fact that his own coach wanted him to fail. Just enough. Sometimes I wonder if I belong here, he said. Lorraine Bennett didn't hesitate, not for 1 second. You listen to me. I've scrubbed floors in a hospital full of the smartest people in Baltimore for 23 years. Doctors, surgeons, researchers, and not one of them, not one, ever solved something in 9 seconds on a video I watched 40 times on my phone. Isaac laughed, the first real laugh in days. You belong everywhere you stand, Isaac Bennett. You hear me? Yes, ma'am. Now go show them what a Bennett can do. He hung up. Sat on that bench for a long time, watching joggers loop the mall and tourists photograph the monument. The sun dropped behind the Lincoln Memorial. The air turned cool. He stood up and walked back to the hotel. That night, his nose started bleeding. Stress, lack of sleep. He'd been running on coffee and adrenaline for 4 days straight. Tyler, who'd driven down from Connecticut and was camped on the floor of Isaac's room with a sleeping bag, woke up and found Isaac in the bathroom, head tilted back, tissues pressed to his face, notes still open on the counter. Bro, you need to rest. Can't. Finals are in 12 hours. Tyler sat on the edge of the bathtub. Isaac. You've already proved everything you need to prove. The whole internet watched you solve that equation. You know that, right? Isaac dropped the tissues in the trash, looked at himself in the mirror, bags under his eyes, chalk dust still on his fingers from the practice problems he'd been writing on the bathroom mirror with a dry erase marker. This isn't about proving anything anymore, he said quietly. There's a dead man's work on those pages, and the guy who stole it is sitting in a first-class hotel suite acting like he built it all himself. Tyler frowned. What do you mean, a dead man's work? Isaac shook his head. Not yet, after the finals. He splashed water on his face, went back to the desk, and opened Claire's notes to the next chapter. Outside the hotel, the city was quiet. Streetlights hummed along Pennsylvania Avenue. Inside, the lobby clock ticked past midnight, 12 hours to go. And somewhere on the 6th floor, Gerald Whitmore was on a phone call of his own, talking to the NC3 organizing committee chairman, an old conference buddy from the 90s, asking casual questions about the format of the Grand Challenge, what discipline, what problem type, how long, making sure he knew exactly what was coming, so everyone on his team could prepare, everyone except Isaac. It was Claire who found it, 2 a.m., the night before the finals. She couldn't sleep. Something had been nagging her for weeks, a detail she couldn't place. A phrase in one of Whitmore's papers that felt familiar. Too familiar. She'd read it somewhere else. Claire opened her laptop and logged into the Belworth University Digital Archive. She'd been granted access as a graduate research assistant, one of the perks of being Whitmore's top student. She typed in a name she'd come across in an old departmental newsletter. Dr. Raymond Carter. Carter had been a chemistry professor at Belworth in the early 2000s. Black, brilliant, quiet. He'd spent years developing novel catalytic synthesis methods, work that colleagues described as groundbreaking. He died in 2008 of pancreatic cancer. He was 51. His widow had donated his unpublished research notes to the university archive, 14 boxes. Nobody had touched them in over a decade. Claire opened box 14C. What she found made her stop breathing. Handwritten notes, dated 2006 and 2007. Diagrams of catalytic pathways, reaction mechanisms drawn in precise, careful strokes. And there, on page after page, the exact methodology that appeared in Whitmore's most cited paper, the 2009 publication in the Journal of the American Chemical Society, the paper that earned him tenure, the paper that made his career. The dates didn't lie. Carter's notes predated Whitmore's publication by 2 full years. Gerald Whitmore hadn't just borrowed from a dead colleague. He'd built his entire reputation on stolen work. Claire printed everything. 46 pages. She found a 24-hour FedEx office 3 blocks from the hotel and had the documents notarized. Timestamp, witness signature, seal. Then she knocked on Isaac's door. Isaac read the pages in silence. His face didn't change. Not at first, but his hands started shaking. He recognized the synthesis pathway. It was the same shortcut he'd used to solve the Whitmore wall, the same catalytic logic he'd discovered on his own, from library books, in a high school that didn't have working lab equipment. He and Raymond Carter had arrived at the same truth, independently, 15 years apart. He stole it, Isaac said, not a question. All of it, Claire said. The wall equation, the textbook method, the 2016 paper, it all traces back to Carter's notes. Isaac set the pages down on the desk. He stared at the wall for a long time. What do you want to do? Claire asked. Isaac stood up. I'm going to win tomorrow, and then I'm going to make sure Raymond Carter gets his name back. Claire nodded. I'll have the documents ready. Isaac looked at the clock. 4:30 a.m., 7 hours until the finals began. He didn't sleep, but for the first time in weeks he wasn't tired. Finals morning. Isaac hadn't slept in 26 hours. He showered, put on the team blazer, the one Whitmore had ordered for everyone except him. Claire had found one at a thrift store 2 blocks from the hotel, slightly too big in the shoulders. Isaac buttoned it anyway. He grabbed his ID badge, his calculator, and the printed copy of Carter's notes, folded and tucked into his back pocket like a letter from a ghost. The competition venue was the grand ballroom of the Wardman Convention Center. 800 seats, camera crews from 3 networks, a live stream running on the NC3 website, banners from 64 universities hung from the ceiling. The air smelled like floor polish and ambition. Isaac reached the registration desk at 8:15, 45 minutes before round 1. Name? Isaac Bennett, Belworth University. The woman scanned her list, frowned. I'm sorry, your badge was reported lost, deactivated last night at 11 p.m. You'll need a replacement from the security office on the 2nd floor. Isaac's stomach dropped. I have the badge right here. The system shows it's inactive. I can't override it. The security office was across the building. 6 people in line. The replacement process required a photo, a signature, a verification call to the university, and a new badge printed on site. The printer jammed twice. A technician was called. Isaac stood there watching the clock on the wall eat his minutes alive. By the time he walked into the grand ballroom, he was 40 minutes late. Round 1 was already underway. 800 heads turned. The judges frowned. Garrett Cole glanced up from his answer sheet and smiled, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Whitmore sat in the coaches section, arms crossed. He didn't frown. He didn't smile. He just watched, like a man observing an experiment whose outcome he'd already calculated. Isaac took his seat, hands cold, heart hammering. The proctor slid him a problem set. "You have 18 minutes remaining," she whispered. He'd missed 22 minutes of a 40-minute round. Focus, breathe, read. First problem, basic titration. He knew it cold, but his hand was shaking. The numbers blurred on the page. He wrote the wrong unit, caught it, crossed it out, lost 90 seconds on a problem that should have taken 30. He finished the round, but the damage was done. 2 errors, 1 incomplete answer, points he couldn't recover. Scoreboard. Isaac Bennett, 7th place. Garrett Cole, 1st. Round 2, specialty category, theoretical physical chemistry. The field Whitmore had forced on him 36 hours ago. 5 questions, 60 minutes. Isaac worked through 4 cleanly. Solid reasoning, no wasted steps. But the 5th, a multivariable partition function problem, ate the clock. The math spiraled into a dead end. He restarted, ran out of time with the final calculation unfinished. Scoreboard update, Isaac 3rd overall. Garrett still 1st. A student from Stanford held 2nd. During the break, Whitmore huddled with the team by the water station. He put his hand on Garrett's shoulder. "Outstanding work. Keep that energy for the grand challenge." He nodded to the others. "Stay sharp." He walked right past Isaac without breaking stride. Claire intercepted Isaac in the hallway. "How bad?" "3rd, 2 rounds down, 1 to go." "You can still win this." "I know." He glanced toward the restroom. "I need a minute." He locked the door, splashed water on his face, gripped the edges of the sink until his knuckles went white. The fluorescent light buzzed above him like a trapped insect. Bloodshot eyes stared back from the mirror. The thrift store blazer hung loose on his frame. He thought about his mother, scrubbing hospital floors at 4 a.m., saving 11 months to buy him a calculator. He thought about Raymond Carter, dying at 51. His life's work sealed in a box no one opened for 15 years. He thought about Whitmore, sitting in the coaches section like a king on a stolen throne. Isaac straightened his spine, adjusted the blazer, buttoned it tight. The bathroom door opened. Tyler was leaning against the wall outside, arms crossed. "Claire got the documents notarized," Tyler said quietly. "Whatever happens in there, the truth is locked and loaded." Isaac nodded once. "Then let's finish this." He walked back into the ballroom. Different posture, different eyes, the kind of eyes that have already decided. The grand challenge was next. The grand challenge. 1 problem, 15 minutes, all 12 finalists on stage simultaneously, 800 people in the audience, cameras broadcasting live to 200,000 viewers online. The head judge, Dr. Vivian Cole from MIT, stood at the podium. No relation to Garrett despite the name. She adjusted her microphone and addressed the room. "This is the final round of the National Collegiate Chemistry Challenge. The problem you are about to receive combines organic chemistry, thermodynamics, and chemical kinetics. You will have 15 minutes. Work independently. Begin when the screen activates." The screen lit up. Isaac read the problem, then read it again. An industrial pharmaceutical synthesis had gone wrong. A manufacturing chain designed to produce a critical cardiac medication had failed at scale, producing a toxic byproduct instead of the intended compound. The task, identify the failure point in the synthesis chain, propose a corrected pathway, and calculate the theoretical yield of the corrected process. The problem was massive. 6 reaction steps, 3 branching mechanisms, temperature-dependent variables, pressure constraints. It combined every discipline Isaac had studied and the one Whitmore had tried to use against him. Isaac picked up his pen, and then he stopped. He recognized the core structure, not from a textbook, not from Claire's notes, not from any lecture at Belworth. He recognized it from Box 14C, from Raymond Carter's handwritten notes. The synthesis pathway at the heart of this problem, the one that governed the entire chain, was a variant of Carter's catalytic method, the same method Whitmore had published as his own in 2009. The same logic Isaac had independently discovered in a Baltimore library at 16 years old. Isaac knew this pathway the way a musician knows a melody learned in childhood, not by memory, by instinct. He began to write. Around him, the other finalists attacked the problem with visible intensity. Pens scratched, calculators clicked, brows furrowed. The Stanford student worked methodically, filling page after page. A finalist from Caltech erased and restarted twice. Garrett Cole worked fast, confident strokes. He'd clearly seen problems like this before, or perhaps he'd been briefed on the format. His pen barely paused. Isaac didn't rush. He moved through the problem the way a surgeon moves through tissue. Precise, deliberate, every cut intentional. He identified the failure point in 90 seconds. A miscalculated activation energy at step 4 that caused the reaction to favor the toxic byproduct pathway over the intended one. He corrected the pathway, rerouted the synthesis through Carter's catalytic shortcut, the elegant, efficient method that reduced 6 steps to 4. He calculated the yield using the corrected stoichiometry, checked his math twice. Then he did something nobody expected. At the bottom of his solution sheet, below the final answer, Isaac added a handwritten notation. Small, precise, deliberate. This synthesis pathway was first theorized by Dr. Raymond Carter, Belworth University, 2007. Reference: Carter Unpublished Notes, Belworth University Archive, Box 14C. He set his pen down with 8 minutes still on the clock. Around him, pens kept scratching. The Stanford student was still working. Garrett was scribbling corrections. 2 finalists had given up entirely, staring at their sheets with hollow eyes. Isaac folded his hands on the desk and waited. The timer hit 0. A buzzer sounded. Proctors collected the answer sheets. The audience stirred. The judges retreated to a review room. The finalists sat in silence on stage, 12 chairs in a row, 800 faces staring at them. 15 minutes passed, then 20. The delay was unusual, the audience murmured. Inside the review room, Dr. Vivian Cole read Isaac's solution for the 3rd time. She passed it to the judge on her left. He read it, passed it to the next. They conferred in low voices. One of them pulled out a laptop and searched the Belworth Archive database. They found Box 14C. When the judges returned to the stage, the room fell silent. Dr. Cole stepped to the podium. "We have completed our review. Before I announce the results, I want to note something extraordinary." She paused. The cameras tightened on her face. One finalist not only solved the problem with full accuracy and an elegant corrected pathway, but also provided a citation to unpublished research by Dr. Raymond Carter, a former professor at Belworth University who passed away in 2008. The audience shifted. Whispers rippled through the rows. In the coaches section, Gerald Whitmore sat perfectly still. His face had turned the color of old paper. "Our panel has verified that Dr. Carter's notes, archived at Belworth, do contain the foundational methodology used in this finalist's solution, and that this methodology predates several published works previously attributed to other researchers." She let that land. The whispers turned into murmurs. A journalist in the 3rd row started typing furiously. "The winner of the 38th National Collegiate Chemistry Challenge, with the highest individual score in the competition's history, is Isaac Bennett, Belworth University." The ballroom erupted. 800 people on their feet. Claire screamed from the Belworth section. Tyler grabbed a stranger next to him in a bear hug. The Stanford finalist turned around and shook Isaac's hand before anyone else could reach him. Isaac stood slowly. The noise washed over him like a wave. He looked out at the crowd, faces he didn't know, voices he couldn't separate, and for a moment the room blurred. Then Dr. Cole spoke again. The crowd quieted. "In light of the citation provided and the archival evidence, this panel is recommending that today's winning solution be formally recognized under a new designation." She looked directly at Isaac. "We are naming it the Carter-Bennett pathway, honoring both the mind that first conceived it and the one that brought it to light." The room didn't just cheer, it roared. Isaac's eyes found the coaches section. Whitmore was gone. His chair was empty. His jacket still hung over the back of it, abandoned like a shed skin. Garrett Cole sat 3 chairs away on stage. His answer sheet, technically correct but brute force inelegant, sat in front of him. He looked at Isaac, not with hatred, not with anger, with the quiet recognition of a man who has just watched someone operate on an entirely different level. Garrett nodded. Once, small. The kind of nod you give when there's nothing left to say. Isaac nodded back. The cameras flashed. The audience kept standing. Somewhere in the back row, a woman held up her phone with a live stream comment that read, "This kid just changed chemistry forever." And in East Baltimore, in a small row house on North Avenue, Lorraine Bennett stood in her kitchen in her hospital uniform, watching the live stream on a phone propped against the sugar bowl. Her hands, cracked, bleach-worn, shaking, covered her mouth. She didn't scream. She didn't cheer. She just cried. The quiet kind. The kind that comes when you spent 23 years scrubbing floors and you finally see the reason why. The fallout was immediate. Within an hour of the announcement, NC3 officials launched a formal review of every paper Gerald Whitmore had published in the past 17 years. The archival reference Isaac had written on his answer sheet, Box 14C, became the most searched term on academic Twitter by sundown. Claire didn't wait. She'd been carrying the notarized documents in her bag since 4:30 that morning. Before Isaac had even left the stage, she emailed the full packet to Dean Patricia Collins, the Bellworth Ethics Board, and the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the American Chemical Society. 46 pages, time-stamped, witnessed, sealed. By evening, 3 national news outlets had picked up the story. A reporter from the Washington Post reached Whitmore's office phone. He didn't answer. His voicemail was full by 9 p.m. A second reporter tracked down his home number. His wife said he wasn't available and hung up. The university moved fast. Collins convened an emergency session of the ethics board the following Monday. The evidence was overwhelming. Carter's handwritten notes, dated 2006 and 2007, contained the exact methodology, the same catalytic shortcut, the identical reaction diagrams that appeared in Whitmore's 2009 paper. The paper that earned him tenure, the paper that built his textbook, the paper that made him the gatekeeper. Whitmore's defense: Raymond Carter had been a collaborator. They'd developed the work together. Carter's name was omitted due to an editorial oversight. The dates destroyed him. Carter's notes predated any record of collaboration by 14 months. Whitmore's own lab notebooks from that period contained no reference to the methodology until 6 months after Carter's death. Not one entry, not one sketch, nothing. The board's ruling was unanimous. Whitmore was stripped of tenure. His 3 most cited papers were flagged for retraction. His textbook, used in over 300 universities, was pulled from the approved curriculum pending review. He cleaned out his office on a Wednesday afternoon. Security walked beside him. He carried 1 box and didn't look at anyone in the hallway. That same week, Dr. Raymond Carter's name began appearing where it always should have been. Academic databases updated their records. Citation indexes corrected their attributions. A quiet man who died too soon, finally credited for the work that outlived him. Hashtag Justice for Carter trended for 3 days straight, and Isaac Bennett, the scholarship kid from East Baltimore who solved an equation in 9 seconds, became the reason why. 6 weeks later, Bellworth University held a ceremony in the Science Building atrium, standing room only. Faculty, students, press, and one 82-year-old woman in the front row who hadn't stopped smiling since she sat down. The university president unveiled a bronze plaque beside the chemistry wing entrance. New name, new letters etched into stone. The Carter Laboratory. Mrs. Eleanor Carter stood when they read her husband's name. She didn't speak. She pressed her hand against the plaque and held it there, eyes closed, like she was touching something warm. Isaac watched from the second row, Claire beside him, Tyler in the back, recording on his phone because Lorraine had asked him to. Dean Collins announced that Isaac had been offered a full PhD fellowship at MIT, the youngest chemistry candidate accepted in 11 years. The room applauded. Isaac nodded but didn't stand. This wasn't his moment. Not yet. Then Gerald Whitmore walked to the microphone. Plain suit, no tie. He looked 10 years older than he had 6 weeks ago. He unfolded a single piece of paper and read without looking up. I was wrong about Isaac Bennett. His voice was thin, stripped of everything that once made it dangerous. I was wrong about a lot of things, and I owe a debt to Dr. Raymond Carter that I can never repay. He folded the paper, walked off stage, didn't shake a single hand. The room stayed silent until the door closed behind him. After the ceremony, Mrs. Carter found Isaac in the hallway. She took both his hands. Her fingers were small and warm. "Raymond would have loved you," she said. Isaac couldn't speak. He just nodded. His mother stood 3 feet away, still in her hospital janitor uniform, straight from a shift. Tears ran down her face in 2 clean lines. Isaac looked at her and mouthed the words, "We did it, Mom." Lorraine covered her mouth and closed her eyes. 2 months later, Isaac stood in the Carter laboratory, chalk in hand. 40 freshmen in front of him, the youngest teaching assistant in Bellworth's history. A nervous black girl sat in the front row, notebook open, pen ready. Isaac smiled at her. "Welcome. You belong here. If you know someone who's ever been told they don't belong, share this story with them. Drop a comment. What would you have done in those 9 seconds? And if this is your first time here, subscribe. More stories like this are coming." Narrator deliberate. "Yo, when you win, lift somebody up with you far. Don't just take her seat at the table, pull up a chair for the next person." Continues after a beat. "'Cause the real flex ain't being the only one in the room." Long pause. "It's making sure you ain't the last one either."